they really think they can conquer Russia. And the way they present it, you got that neocon Kinzinger who was thrown out of Congress, but he was the one on the January 6th committee with Cheney.
Right.
You can Google this. He came out and says, we can defeat Russia in 3 days.
You're listening to Kerry Lutz's Financial Survival Network, where you get valuable information you just can't find anywhere else. To thrive in today's trying times, you need the Financial Survival Network, now more than ever. Go to financialsurvivalnetwork.com and get your free newsletter and gift. Financial Survival Network, now more than ever.
And welcome. You are listening to and watching the Financial Survival Network. I'm your host, Kerry Lutz, and today we've got Martin Armstrong with us. He sent out an urgent missive to those on his mailing list last week on the 18th. Basically says Russia sees Trump's 50-day window as a green light to keep up brutal offensive in Ukraine. Basically continuation of the war, expansion, World War III. Martin, like General Smedley Butler said that war is a racket. And I'm looking, you had a table there, the cost of wars going back in 2024 dollars. And even the cost of the War of 1812 in today's dollars was $2 billion. So, and it lasted 32 months. Then we go to World War II, which was the worst of all of them. And that was 5.7 trillion and change in 45 months. I mean, the war is, the cost of them keeps going up. And I'm currently writing a book because my father was a pilot in World War II. He's a hump pilot. He flew over the Himalayas from India to China and, flying over war materials, cargo, and half of the stuff wound up when it hit China in the black market anyway. So what the point of that endeavor was, but the book I'm writing is about the corruption of World War II, tracing it all, how everybody got rich, dealt with the enemy. It didn't matter what side you were on. The game is when there's a war, you get to steal unlimited vast sums of money if you're on the inside.
If you can actually Google it up and you'll see that all the weapons they were sending to Afghanistan were ending up in the black market and sold on the streets in the United States. Even Obama was forced to come out with legislation against it. I mean, this is the way it is. You just had Zelensky, try to rescind the corruption investigations because they know they are losing, and you're running out of people, so they just want to fill their pockets. And I hope the hell he goes someplace other than Miami. But it's just, I mean, the guy's not going to survive in Ukraine. Ukrainians I talked to, they said if he was on fire, they wouldn't urinate on him until he was dead. Most Ukrainians basically say that, they're not, he doesn't listen to them. There was an attempted assassination on him last May, and he fired his bodyguard, and his bodyguards are Americans and British now. He doesn't even trust the Ukrainian people. I don't know how much money do you need. You can't spend that. I mean, I've dealt in billions and trillions, and it would be, I'd go out to dinner, just did like a $10 billion trade or something. And you go out to dinner and you order, okay, fine. The bill's like $400. It's, you can't spend that kind of money. You can't spend $1 billion. All that is good for is basically, bribing other people. That's about it. it's, people don't realize how much $1 billion really is. I think the most expensive house in the country is like 100 million or 120 or something like that.
Mar-a-Lago, I think, is the most expensive.
It's and that's with inflation, not what it cost to build it originally.
It was $1 million and a couple $1 million to build it. So when you look at this, you really think that NATO is going to deploy 250,000 troops? I don't see us sending American troops there. Do you?
I hope not. I spoke to someone very close to Trump, and I thought they would think good. Maybe I was conspiracy theory or whatever, but I said, look, we got to get the hell out of NATO. They're going to do a false flag to invoke Article 5 and try and drag us into war in Europe. And I expect, really? Instead, what I got, yes, we know, you're right.
Well, here's where the AI comes in. I call it Trump GPT. This administration's being run with an AI backbone. It's not to say the AI is making the decisions. The AI is wargaming every possibility, everything they do, right down to the litigation model. And so they've already thought of a lot of this stuff. And, but it's Europe. They just made this amazing deal with the United States that I don't even believe they're going to comply with. They're all promises, these deals. There's nothing concrete, substantive. So look what we did for you. You got to help us out here. Europe is going to fall. You can't let Europe fall. In the end, does he just let Europe lose on their own?
What's happening is that they have vested so much into this Ukrainian propaganda that, if Ukraine falls, Putin's going to come and take Europe. There's nothing in Europe for Russia to take to begin with. They have to get all their energy from Russia. You're not talking about gold or anything. All they're going to get is nothing but headaches, civil unrest. The French are going to say, "You're going to pay our pensions now." There's nothing to go in for.
Yeah.
War, if you look at it objectively, you have to have some sort of economic reason to do it. Japan went into Manchuria to get assets, energy, etc. There's got to be a profit to it. The only exceptions are like religion, or like Khrushchev did. We will bury you. That was almost an economic religion that communism would defeat capitalism.
Cultism. Cult.
It's not. It wasn't like, you got a whole bunch of gold and we won it, or something like that. In ancient days, it was the same thing. The troops shared in the spoils, so they followed, Alexander the Great. They stopped in India and said, "Hey, we're not going in there. Forget it." He couldn't say, let's go conquer this country. Why? Because I just don't like them. What are we going to get at it? Oh, nothing. They're going to say, really? You're on your own. So we have, on the West side, they've tried to, invade Russia. This would be the third time. Sweden was the first with Peter the Great. Sweden actually controlled all the way down to Ukraine. People don't realize that historically, but and that's why they called Peter the Great. He basically kicked them the hell out of Central Europe. Then you had Napoleon. And then you had Hitler. Why do they always want to go into Russia? And Russia is the richest country in the world with $75 trillion in assets. They probably should make a good, film about what happened when the Russian Revolution. Russia had the largest gold reserves of anybody in the world. Somebody hid them, and they didn't want the Bolsheviks to get them, and they've never been found. Rumors are that they were buried in a forest or dropped to a deep lake, but it's kind of like, the Knights Templar treasure or something.
Yeah. Pablo Escobar's treasure.
Yeah, whatever, Ferdinand Marcos in the Philippines. Nobody knows where the hell it is. But, even Margaret, Thatcher stood up and said Russia's the richest. They got more gold, more diamonds, more oil, and more timber than anybody. But so there's an economic incentive. And what I've heard basically out of Paris is that Macron's been the one that's been pushing to send troops into Ukraine. And he thinks that they can take out Russia, and then Europe will get to 75 trillion, resurrect the Roman Empire, and lead the world again, and then their old past glories,
Little
I
delusional.
think it's deranged, but then you have Kalis, who was the prime minister of Estonia, now the head of security there for the EU. And she's even come out and said Russia's too big and needs to be broken up.
Yeah, who's going to do it?
Trump is out of his mind. And I don't support him on this. I don't know who the hell he's listening to. You want peace. You had really, the Minsk agreement. Everybody signed it. And then you had Merkel come out and said, well, we never intended to honor that. We were just buying time for Ukraine to build an army. Then there was another peace deal in it. Putin was signing that. Boris Johnson hopped on the plane, told Zelensky he wasn't allowed to sign it. Then made the front pages of Ukrainian press. I mean, why, if I'm Putin, you want me to do this again? I'm going to tell you to shove it where the sun doesn't shine. So, how many times can you fool the guy?
Yeah.
He's drew so many red lines, and Europe deliberately crosses each one. The last one was you give long-range missiles to attack inside Russia. That's it. They did. Okay, hit us now, please, so we can say you're the aggressor. You just had Merz in Germany come out and saying we're going to give long-range missiles to Kiev so they can destroy Moscow. Really?
It's insane. This is insanity, Marty.
They really think they can conquer Russia. And the way they present it, you got that neocon Kinzinger who was thrown out of Congress, but he was the one on the January 6th committee with Cheney.
Right.
You can Google this. He came out and says, we can defeat Russia in 3 days. 3 days. I guess maybe 5 days for China. They act as if they will never get a shot off. We can wipe them out. That's it. And I don't know what the hell these people. I guess they're all just sniffing cocaine on the train.
Yeah. We've seen that, right? We saw that happen.
No, it's illogical. If you wrote a movie and made this the plot, nobody would believe it. It's just absurd.
Okay, so that's where we're at there. Will Trump fall for it? But the Socrates model and 2026 panic. How should investors, us normies out here, kind of prepare for that?
Well, I think what you're going to see is, since Trump has even moved up this deadline to August, he backs off or something. I don't know. I don't see Putin agreeing to this. If he did, I think he would be overthrown. You had Zelensky trying to assassinate Putin just, it was a couple months ago. And, Putin is the smartest man in the room and the most responsible. He understands where World War III goes. The press over here twists it, because they're all just paid by neocons anyhow. But, he's threatening, World War. No, he's warning you, asshole. If I were to do World War, I'm not going to tell you I'm coming. Just going to punch you in the face. That's it. No warning. When he's standing out, is this really what you want to go to? So my concern is that they tried to assassinate him because they know what I know, that he is the most responsible leader, period. And so they've done all these things to try to get him to act emotionally. And it hasn't worked for both long-range missiles invading, Russia itself. So they tried to remove him because they want somebody like, Medvedev right behind him who will act basically emotionally. Yeah. Oh, you sent these missiles, that's it. Enough, and push that's what they want. Putin doesn't respond emotionally. Yeah. But he's getting an awful lot of criticism in Russia for not doing so. So it's kind of difficult at this stage in the game. But the computer is really showing, ideally even like silver or temporary high in July. Maybe we back off. And then 26 is looking like outright war. I don't know. Do you replace Putin in November or so? And then you get somebody like Medvedev in there who will go to war. But it's also, this is showing up globally. So you're seeing, conflicts, even, Thailand and Cambodia, India versus Pakistan. You have Erdogan in Turkey, who's really, it kind of thinks like Macron wants to resurrect Europe as the Roman Empire. Erdogan in Turkey wants to resurrect the Ottoman Empire. So it's, then you have even Greece. We handed them a handful of jets and made the front pages. And what did they say? Oh, now we can do a sneak attack on Turkey. They're two NATO nations. I mean, it's like, I don't know. Did somebody just, taint the water and they're all just, with drunk on cocaine or something? I really don't know.
What about?
I've been doing it for 40 years and I've never seen every one of them is a warmonger. I mean, it's crazy. I mean, we remember the days of Miss America, and she'd stand up, oh, I want world peace. I don't know if anybody says that anymore, I want world war. Let's clean house or something,
So what about what's happening in Iran now, too? That looks like heading for a regime replacement.
Yeah, look, it's, even there you have a conflict between religious conflict. I mean, I did warn people in Washington, do not take out the Ayatollah because he's, Israel, I think, was literally trying to do a regime change, targeting individual senior people. And Trump at least got the message, I think, and then told Israel not to touch him because you've got about 30% on average of these other countries, Egypt, etc., that are Shiite. So you take out him and you make it a religious war. Yeah. That's not negotiable. This would be like, Zelensky, who is outlawing Orthodox Christianity assassinating the Patriarch of Moscow. Or Protestants assassinating the Pope. I mean, you don't do that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Makes
sense. He's probably going to
talking about religion. It's much more different than you taking out a leader. Okay, fine, whatever. But that just makes it a real mess. And Iran is by far not settled, and neither is the Middle East. That will probably flare up again next year. But, they're not. There's a large segment within Iran that's against the Shiites. Women have to be covered, stuff like that. Then you go to the Turkey, where Sunni, and you'll see a girl in a bikini on page 3 in the newspaper. Completely different.
Yeah, true. So, what about censorship and truth? Just as a preamble to that, I put my YouTube channel analytics through 5 different AIs, including Google's, right? The owner of YouTube, and each one said that my videos are algorithmically suppressed, and I'm silenced to about 10% of the audience that I should be getting, or maybe even more. It might even be multiples of what I'm getting. And every now and then we have one break out, like the first time when I talked to you after the book was released, and then you had your Ukraine forecast that it would disappear, and it broke through the suppression. And then they do it really sneakily, periodic suppression. They don't do it on every one, but they do it on most of them. But they let a few break out to think that you're actually getting through. It's a global thing that we're talking about here, this censorship thing.
Look, this is just read Lenin. Newspapers are a great tool to control people. This is what they're doing. What our computer shows is that, it's 2032 forecast, and I've said many times, our governments are collapsing. People are beginning to question their validity. The censorship is just part of it. You look at Germany. At first, they wanted to outlaw the AfD. Oh, they're a bunch of Nazis because they were against immigration. Now it's the number one party. You're seeing that in Portugal and Poland. Nigel Farage. We had forecast that Brexit would win. Every newspaper in London said it would lose. Everyone. And even Davos did its best to come out against it. You had all of them. I mean, Soros took, it made the front page. He was paying to defeat it. And our computer said it would win. And Nigel came to our 2019 conference in Rome, and he said, of course I'm here. He's the only one that said we would win. So even these polls, they're not real polls. It's what we want people to think. Oh, you shouldn't vote for that because you're just going to be in the minority. And this is what they've attempted. So you have Vance at the Munich Security Conference and got them all upset, about the suppression of free speech there.
Right.
But
all right. So
this is all part of what our computer's projecting, that people are going to realize, particularly when you start getting into war. Vietnam, you were 18, you could be drafted, you weren't old enough to have a drink, and you certainly couldn't vote. Where the hell is that democracy?
yeah.
And if you didn't show up, you were a draft dodger thrown in prison. Okay.
I remember.
So, we're never asked, shall we go to war with Russia? They will just do it. Mm-hmm. And they tell us, this is democracy standing up against a dictator. Really? Let's pull back the curtain and look a little closer. Ursula, head of Europe, look on even on Wikipedia. She has never stood for an election ever in her entire career. She's a bureaucrat. When they designed the EU, it was to make sure there was no democratic process, that the people had a prayer in hell of changing government.
Yeah.
So
agreed. Hey, we're going to make this part two. We're going to make this part two because I want to go over a number of the predictions that were in the book that came true. The book, of course, is The World According to Martin Armstrong, Conversations with the Master Forecaster. The place to buy it, link in the show notes.
Thanks for listening to Kerry Lutz's Financial Survival Network, your solution to today's trying times. For the latest, go to financialsurvivalnetwork.com. Financial Survival Network, now more than ever.